As another Academy Awards has come and gone, the Movie Nerds Club has decided to celebrate the last award to close out the award season, or at least the award that should close out the award season. So this month we decided to rank our top 5 Best Picture winners. Now before we get started, as you can see by the title, I'm not the only person doing this. I'm joined by my friends Rachel, Larry, Alyssa, Ryan, and Sean, so you can find their links in the description and check out their top 5s. And again, you don't have to agree with any of us, and we want to know your top 5, so drop them in the comments below. And while you're down there, consider clicking the subscribe button if you haven't done so yet. It does wonders to get my content out there, and you'll always be aware of whenever I upload a new top 5 next month, or an anime review, trailer reaction, movie review, TV review, all sorts of great geeky stuff. And before I kick off with my proper top 5, there are a lot of great Best Picture winners throughout the 93-year history of the Oscars, and so I do have a few honorable mentions. First and foremost, All Quiet on the Western Front, one of the earlier Best Picture winners and a phenomenal movie that holds up to this day. Next up, 2 sports movies, kind of, one of them Rocky, a film that I love. It ignited one of the best franchises that we have until this day, and Chariots of Fire, a film whose theme might be just even more famous than the movie itself. But both of these films I love. I go back to them all the time. They are super inspirational. Unfortunately, they're just not the movies that I prefer amongst the Best Picture winners. Schindler's List is a phenomenal film in every regard. It probably should have been in the top 5 itself, but it lacks that rewatchability element. I just can't put myself through this film a lot of times, and because other movies I go back to more constantly, it just misses the mark to get into that top 5. And the 3 movies that actually were on the list, in fact a few of them might have been at number 1 on some points, are Birdman, Argo, and the most recent Best Picture winner apart from Nomadland, Parasite. These movies are phenomenal. I actually do go back to these all the freaking time, but there are just 5 movies that I do consider better than them, so here we go. And to kick off the top 5, we have what I consider to be the greatest Western ever made, Unforgiven, directed and starring Clint Eastwood and Morgan Freeman. I love these stories of old badass men coming back from one last blaze of glory. It's a very classic story, but it's got all those effective elements that make it work and give it gravitas. This is probably my favorite Clint Eastwood film. I love how it evocates those classic themes from westerns of the main western era in the 50s and 60s, and somehow this film elevates them all by comparison because it's just better at everything that they were. This film is one that I think is magnificent because it didn't come out on the era where westerns were the shit. Westerns were the type of film that everyone wanted to see. This film came out in 1992, 1 year before I was born, fun fact. And to this day, the story and the themes in it still resonate magnificently so. Coming in at number 4, perhaps the most unpopular opinion I will have in this top 5, The Shape of Water. I love Guillermo del Toro as a filmmaker. I love his imagination. I love his sensibilities. I love that he doesn't look at fantasy, at the fantasy genre, with a side eye. I love that he can ignite the nuance, the profound themes, and the human element that can bring these stories up and elevate them and make them the best and most relatable story. From the moment it starts, you almost feel hypnotized by this film and you fall in love with the story and the struggles of its characters. It resonates and it parallels a lot of things that were going on at the time when this film is set. And it also kind of mimics a lot of things that were going on at the time where this film actually came out. The look of it is so beautiful, it's gorgeous, it's almost dreamlike, almost ethereal, like it's from another world, which maybe was the point from Guillermo del Toro. But it never treats itself like anything less than a romantic drama with a lot of struggles for our characters, a great villain by Michael Shannon, and the writing overall is just beautiful. This is a film that gave me probably the greatest joy in seeing it winning Best Picture, because I'm a fantasy junkie and it's rare that we see fantasy films get that recognition, get a proper look at it, and this one did it. Coming in at number 3, we go a little bit more back in time to the 1960s with Lawrence of Arabia. There's so much to say about this film, perhaps because it is over 4 hours long. There just aren't any movies that are made like this nowadays, not only in terms of its runtime, but in terms of its epic scope. When you look back and think of older movies like The Ten Commandments, Cleopatra, when you think of epic to describe a film, to me, Lawrence of Arabia is what comes to mind. The fact that it is based on a real story just makes it all the more spectacular. To this day, visually, it is still one of the most gorgeous films ever shot. In my heart, I still believe this film is visually a reference to 90% of filmmakers out there when they want to go out and make a grandiose looking film. If you want to go for adventure, this film has it. For action, this film has it. For drama, this film has it. It has it all. It does it all in its 4-hour runtime, which kind of makes it seem easy, but the fact that you have to tell a story for 4 hours, you have to justify it for 4 hours, makes it an immeasurable challenge. Lawrence of Arabia is perhaps the most different film I have on this list, because just in terms of its scale and scope, it is unrivaled, not only by the films that did make my list, but just by any movie on the Best Picture winners list. And Lawrence of Arabia still stands tall like a Goliath amongst that very, very highly regarded group of films. At number 2, we have one of my favorite films of all time. In fact, one of the 2 films on this list that actually belongs in my top 10 movies of all time, Ridley Scott's Gladiator. I do go back to this film so much. I love the character of Maximus, I love the story of vengeance, I love the action, I love the themes, I love the freaking score by Hans Zimmer. In terms of scores, when it comes to movies, this is as well in my top 10 movie scores of all time. Gladiator just feels in a lot of ways ahead of its time. Ironically, nowadays there aren't that many sword and sandal films being made, and whenever they try to make it, they're just not received well. But Gladiator feels like a movie that if it were to come out today, it wouldn't look old, it wouldn't feel old, and it would be just as highly regarded. The performance by Russell Crowe in this film is perhaps the best he has given in his career. The writing is sensational. The story of vengeance, of fathers and son, of corrupt power going against humble poor man, coming back to avenge the death of his wife and child. It's a film that just fills me up with emotions from the moment it begins to the moment it ends, with that daring of an ending. Again, it's something you don't see a lot. You can pick and choose, like once a year, I will say, when a film actually kills its protagonist and sticks to it. And Gladiator is one of those that just stands out as it was the right thing to do for this story, for this character, and it very much belongs in my top 10 movies of all time. Coming in at number 1, the Best Picture winner is a film that also belongs in my top 10 movies of all time, from 1942, Casablanca. This to me is the best romance in cinema history, ending with heartbreak, because it gives priority to what actually matters in the story, to what actually matters to these characters. Rick, let's go, because he realizes what is most important for her. Of all the joints and all in the world, she had to walk into mine. We'll always have Paris. Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. I can just quote this movie to no end. I still remember the first time I watched it. It was a screenwriting class back in my bachelor years, and I've adored this film ever since. It is not only my personal best picture winner, it is my favorite movie in black and white. It is my favorite movie starring Humphrey Bogart, and it introduced me to his entire career. Casablanca is just filled with so many memorable moments, memorable characters, memorable scenes with an impactful ending, an impactful beginning, and beautiful arcs that just seem pinpointed perfectly to make this beautiful, seamless story move so organically. And that is why it is not only in my top 10 of all time, but it is my best picture winner. So those are my top 5 best picture winners of all time. Throwing it over to you. What do you think? Agree, disagree? Let me know your list. Make a top 10, a top 15, whatever you want. All it matters is that you start the conversation in the comments below. It's the most important part. And again, if you've watched this far but still haven't subscribed, click the button below. It doesn't cost you anything, makes you aware of every time I upload something new. And you know what? If you ever get tired of my face or my voice, you can always unsubscribe. It's all fine and dandy. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to go check out everyone else's top 5 best picture winners. Their links are in the description with the names and all. And so until the next one, love each other and love the movies.